In the second half of 19th century, an empty ship with all belongings on board was found cruising in the middle of Atlantic. This is a true story of Mary Celeste, so-called the ghost ship. On November 7, 1872, the Mary Celeste, a two-masted brigantine ship, set sail from New York City with a cargo hold full of industrial-strength alcohol, 7 crew, Captain Benjamin Spooner Brigs, his wife Sarah, and their 2-year-old daughter Sophia. Its destination was Genoa, Italy. Nearly a month later, on December 5th, the crew of Del Gratia spotted the Mary Celeste in the middle of Atlantic. The Del Gratia's captain recognized the Mary Celeste. She had sailed from the same port just 8 days before his own departure, and he knew her captain. Concerned, the captain changed course and launched a boarding party to check on the Mary Celeste crew and passengers. They found the Mary Celeste in decent shape despite the North Atlantic's fall disposition at that time of the year. The cargo, except for a few barrels of alcohol, was intact. The ship was well stocked with enough food and water to last 6 months. The crewman's gear was still in the quarters, but the crew, the captain and his family were gone. Del Gratia crew sailed the Mary Celeste about 800 miles to Gibraltar, hoping to collect a salvage payment from the ship's insurers. But if they expected the circumstances wouldn't raise any eyebrows among the British Vice Admiral Court, they were wrong. The Attorney General leading the salvage inquiry suspected something about the case wasn't right, but he couldn't quite put his finger on it. Oh, of course, it's because the Mary Celeste crew and passengers were missing, but they didn't take their personal belongings or food and water. And according to the captain, the crew of the Gratia just found the Mary Celeste in solid condition, sailing itself. All things concerned, it certainly looked like the crew of the Gratia had murdered everyone on board the Mary Celeste, dumped their bodies at sea, and sailed the stolen ship and its cargo to Gibraltar in order to claim salvage payment. But did they? Well, according to the Attorney General and the salvage inquiry, no. Sure, the fact that the crew of the Gratia stood to gain financially from the disappearance of everyone aboard the Mary Celeste raised some alarm bells, but after over 3 months of stern British inquiry, the court found no evidence of foul play. But they weren't fully convinced, so the Gratia received only 1/6 of the Mary Celeste $46,000 insurance policy, which means each crewman walked away with around $830 adjusted for inflation, which is enough money today to buy one suit from Men's Warehouse, get another one for free, and start interviewing for a better freaking job than ghost ship recovery. 12 years after the event, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle published a sensational account of the abandoning of the Mary Celeste. The account was actually a short story presented as a fictional retelling of the experience from a survival who didn't exist, but it got people thinking about the real event all over again. Even the Attorney General leading the salvage inquiry was inspired to review the case once again, but reached no new conclusions. But abandoning a stackable ship in the North Atlantic in December in a lifeboat is a bad idea now, and it was a bad idea in 1872. People don't usually survive bad ideas at sea. Let's take a look at some of the things we do know and the theories, old and new. As mentioned earlier, the cargo, 1,701 barrels of industrial alcohol, was still there, except for 9 barrels in the hold that were empty. One of the ship's pumps had been dismantled and there was a bit of flooding in the cargo hold. A 6-month supply of food and water remained. The logbook was still there with a final entry dated 8 a.m. November 25th. It gave the Mary Celeste position at the time 6 miles northeast of Santa Maria, easternmost island of the Azores, close enough to see the land. Perhaps more northward is what was missing. All the people were gone, of course. Captain's Briggs sextant, chronometer and navigation book were all missing, as well as the ship register. This suggested an orderly abandonment of the ship. Briggs had at least enough time to get below deck and collect his navigational equipment before hitting the lifeboat. These bits of information are helpful for analyzing some of the more popular theories that have developed over the years. Here are 3 of the most realistic Mary Celeste theories. Treachery gets number 1 because it was essentially the prevailing theory during the actual salvage inquiry in 1872. Naturally, Attorney General and his court suspected foul play by the crew of the Gratia. But as I mentioned earlier, they could find no evidence. On top of that, the captains of both ships had been friends. Briggs was a seasoned seaman and well respected in shipping circles. When the Gratia first spotted the abandoned Mary Celeste, Captain was particularly concerned when he realized that the abandoned ship belonged to his friend. They might even have shared dinner in New York Astor House the night before Briggs and the Mary Celeste set sail. It's not impossible that the Gratia and its captain were guilty. After all, they did stand to gain from the salvage. But between his friendship with Briggs and the fact that no evidence of violence was found, it doesn't feel right. Theories of treachery weren't limited to the Gratia. However, other speculation has included piracy and protest. I believe we can rule out piracy, as nothing appears to have been stolen. Why would pirates kill everyone aboard only to let a perfectly good ship laden with cargo drift off to sea? Protest also seems unlikely. By all contemporary accounts, Captain Briggs was a competent, fair and rational captain. It's one of the reasons why people have been so perplexed by the Needle's abandoning of the Mary Celeste. It's also doubtful that he would have hired men he didn't know well when traveling with his own wife and daughter aboard. And even if there had been a protest, why would Briggs' crew abandon the ship after seizing control? It would have been suicide. Another theory focuses on the ship's cargo, those 1,701 barrels of industrial-strength alcohol. The story goes that some of the barrels might have leaked noxious fumes, a theory supported by the 9 empty barrels found aboard. These fumes might have built up, causing a small explosion, or at least causing the ship's crew and the captain to fear an explosion. It is then possible that Briggs ordered a temporary evacuation so that all souls aboard could sail in the lifeboat behind the Mary Celeste while the gases cleared. At some point, their tow line might have detached, leaving the lifeboat behind while everyone in it watched the Mary Celeste drift away, leaving them alone and helpless in the vast Atlantic. You know, like a nightmare. There was no visible evidence of a cabin fire, but this still leaves open the possibility of alcohol gases that never combusted. Even a cool-headed, experienced captain might opt for a temporary evacuation in such a case, especially when his own family was aboard. It's a shame that the evacuation was permanent. This theory might have the most going for it. When comparing Attorney General's notes on the case to oceanography data, researchers found that the Mary Celeste was 120 miles west of where Briggs had thought he was, possibly due to a faulty chronometer, so he had clearly become disoriented. The day before the ship was abandoned, it also changed course, perhaps seeking some relief from rough seas. But bad weather and busted chronometers would not have caused an experienced captain like Briggs to abandon ship. There had to be something else. This is where the pumps come in. On its previous voyage, the Mary Celeste had carried coal in her cargo and had also recently been extensively repaired and renovated. The result might well have been a pump that became clogged with coal and sawdust. This would explain why one of the ship's 2 pumps was found disassembled. Without a pump and with a cargo hold packed Tetris style with barrels of industrial-strength alcohol, Briggs wouldn't have been able to tell how much seawater had leaked into the hull. We know from the 3.5 feet of water observed by the boarding crew that there had been some floating, but Briggs would have been unsure of its extent. At this point, Briggs had been battling storms, was disoriented, and wasn't able to determine if his ship was going to stay afloat. With Santa Maria in sight on the date of the last entry in the logbook, Briggs might have ordered the ship abandoned, while he still had the chance to reach the land with a lifeboat. As for what happened to the Mary Celeste crew after that, who knows? Plenty can happen in 6 miles of open ocean while in a lifeboat. There is a lot to the story of the Mary Celeste that we will never know. Too much time has passed, too many records lost, and everyone involved is totally dead by now. And yet, the story persists. As for the Mary Celeste, her end was far less mysterious. In November 1884, she was sailed right into a reef just off the coast of Haiti, wrecked by a crooked captain who was trying to scam his insurance company. He was charged with fraud and died soon after. You see, sometimes the mystery is better. See you next time. Take care.